was pitch black. A shadow was in my bed. This is the darkest secret of my childhood. Dare to face it.
Bedtime should have been a sweet memory for a tired child. For me, it was the equivalent of a nightmare. Some children complain about going to bed without watching television or playing games. But for me, the night was a terror hiding in pitch black darkness. The shadow of that fear still lingers in the recesses of my mind. As someone who has studied physics, I cannot fully explain what happened to me. The only thing I know is that the fear I felt in those moments was pure and indescribable. It was, truly, the greatest fear I have ever experienced in my life. Nothing can compare to it. I will tell you as much as I can. I don't exactly remember when this fear began, but I think it started when I got my own room at the age of 8. Until then, I had shared a room with my brother, who is 5 years older than me. When he wanted his own space, the small room at the back of the house was given to me. It was a narrow, gloomy room with an old faded lamp, a bed, and just enough space for a few small drawers. I didn't complain, because even at that age, I knew we didn't have a big house. My family loved me dearly, and my childhood was filled with beautiful memories. My brother got a new bed. I, on the other hand, slept in our old bunk bed. Though I was a little hesitant about sleeping alone, the idea of sleeping on the top bunk excited me. But on the very first night, I felt a strange unease gnawing at me. I sat up in bed and looked at my toys scattered on the worn green carpet. My eyes kept drifting involuntarily toward the bottom bunk. It was as if something was there, trying to avoid my gaze. Seeing nothing in the bottom bunk, I pulled the blanket over my head. With the distant, familiar hum of the television my father was watching in the living room, I fell asleep. When you wake from a deep sleep due to some movement, it takes a few seconds to figure out what's happening. As the fog of sleep clears, everything becomes clear. Something was moving. There was no doubt about it. At first, I couldn't figure out what it was. The room was pitch black, as if the darkness was swallowing me whole. Two thoughts rushed into my mind. My family was in their beds, because there was neither sound nor light. The second thought was about the noise that had woken me. As the sleep veil lifted completely, the sound became familiar. Creaks were coming from the bottom bunk, as if someone was shifting, searching for a comfortable position. Was I imagining it? Maybe my cat was trying to sleep in the bottom bunk. I looked at the door. It was closed. Perhaps my mom had opened it to check on me, and the cat had slipped in. Yes, that must have been it. I turned my face to the wall, trying to fall back asleep. But the moment I moved, the creaking stopped. I thought I had disturbed my cat. Then I realized that this visitor was something far more sinister than my cat. Suddenly, the thing in the bottom bunk started moving frantically. It was as if it was having an angry fit, shaking the bed violently. Fear gripped my entire body. My eyes widened, and tears began to stream down my cheeks. I cried. Like every small child, I called for my mom. I heard movement from the other end of the house, but the moment I shouted, the thing below went wild, and the bed shook, as if there were an earthquake. Instead of climbing down, I stayed in my bed, waiting for them to come. Felt like an eternity. Finally, the door opened. The bottom bunk was empty. As I cried, my mom tried to calm me down. I couldn't tell her what I had seen or why I was crying. Paralyzed by fear, it felt as if speaking about it would bring it back. I had that instinct. My mom lay in the bottom bunk, and said she would stay there until morning. That night, I barely slept, my eyes fixed on the darkness. The next morning, I wanted to be anywhere but that room. It was Saturday. I played with my friends in the garden. Our garden was full of bushes and tall trees, and we felt like we were on an exotic island adventure. But while playing, my eyes drifted to my room's window. It was as if it was watching me during the day, growing angry when I was alone at night, and feeding my nightmares. You might find it strange, but when I was sent back to that room, I didn't protest. I had no proof. What could I say? I climbed into my top bunk and lay down. That night, lying rigid with fear, my heart began to race. Creaks came from below again. A word etched itself into my mind. Ghost. After a while, the creaks turned into breathing sounds. I could almost imagine its chest rising and falling. The house was silent, but the breathing continued. I wanted it to leave, to let me be alone. I lay still, silently. What did it want? Then something truly terrifying happened. It moved. This was different from its previous movements. Deliberate and menacing, like an animal. I felt it sit up in the bed. There were only a few wooden slats between us. Its breathing quickened, becoming sharper and more intense. I lay there, my eyes filling with tears. My throat began to burn. I didn't know such fear could exist. I wondered what it looked like, but I struggled to pretend I was asleep so it wouldn't know I was awake. It started touching the slats, separating the two bunks. Then it struck the wood with tremendous force. I started crying again. My mom came again, hugging me. She asked what was wrong. Again I gave the same answer. A nightmare. These strange events continued for weeks. Every night I'd wake to creaks, the bed shaking wildly, and everything would stop when my mom arrived. She slept in the bottom bunk most nights, unaware of what was happening. Some nights, I pretended to be sick to stay with my family. I didn't want to be alone with that thing. It never appeared when my mom or dad was with me, but waking my dad was nearly impossible. A few months later, things got worse. My grandfather fell ill and was dying. My mom stayed with him. That day, I ran home and piled all my belongings on top of the bottom bunk. I didn't want it to come there. When darkness fell, I lay in my bed, knowing my mom wasn't home. I didn't know what to do. My only plan was to take the cross from my mom's jewelry box. Though my family wasn't very religious, I believed in God and thought it would protect me. Clutching the cross under my blanket, I wished to sleep through until morning, but that night was the most terrifying of all. I woke slowly. The room was pitch black. There was no sound, no breathing, no creaking. The room felt lifeless, but it wasn't empty. The night visitor wasn't in the bottom bunk. It was in my bed. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. I froze. If I couldn't scream, it shouldn't know I was awake. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. It was at the edge of my blanket. I'll never forget that weight. If it had been summer, there might have been some light, but in winter, the darkness swallowed everything. I was trapped in that blackness. Sometimes fear overtakes you. Pure, unadulterated fear. I had to get out of bed. I remembered the cross in my hand, but it was gone. Either it had fallen, and I couldn't bear to think it had been taken from me. Without the cross, my hope faded. Even at that age, I knew about death, and I feared it. If I stayed in bed, I would die. I had to escape. But what if it was faster than me? Could I climb down without disturbing it? I tried to sit up and noticed it wasn't moving. Strange thoughts flooded my mind. Was it asleep? Maybe it was playing with me, like a predator waiting for its prey. I tried to breathe as slowly as possible, gathering all my courage. I gently lifted the blanket. At that moment, it brushed against my hand. I began to tremble with fear. It didn't react. It was like it was dead. I wanted to touch its face. I had always wondered what it looked like. Oh God, it moved. It moved and grabbed me. My eyes filled with tears. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. As I looked at the wall, I realized it wasn't on top of me. It was on the wall, like a spider. It gripped me tighter, as if it sensed I was trying to escape. It began pulling me toward the wall. I fought for my life, struggling to break free, but it was much stronger than me. I cried, I screamed, but no one came. I understood why it was hurrying. Daylight was breaking. It pulled me to its chest. I felt its breath, ice cold. As the sun rose, the room filled with light. Its claws wrapped around my neck, and it took my life from me. I woke to the sight of my dad preparing breakfast. I had survived the most terrifying night of my life. Weeks passed without incident. We moved the bed to the other side of the room and replaced the bunk with furniture. But one night, I woke to strange noises. The furniture where the bunk had been shook violently, and an odd hum came from the wall. I've never told this story to anyone before. I still can't sleep with my bed against the wall. You might call it imagination, but I'll say this. The next year, they gave me a new room, and my parents turned that room into their bedroom. On the 11th day, we moved out. If this story chilled you to the bone, thank you. You're not alone in the dark. That thing might still be watching. Don't forget to like, share your fear with others. Subscribe, hit the bell. You don't want to miss the next nightmare. And tell me, what do you think it was? Drop it in the comments. Good night, or maybe no good nights.